To go to Councilman Only's question, and Mr.,
Ballard.
no, I'm sorry.
Oh.
The issues raised about the deal and the $100,000 holdback
Right.
and all the things that are given. Has the city gotten everything that we are supposed to get under this deal? When I was up there today, I was showing these chargers that are not rated for outdoors or substandard, and they had to pull them in off the golf carts because they weren't working. So where are we on all those items?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we did send, on behalf of the city, in connection with this golf course transaction, we sent Mr. Young, Esquire, who's the lawyer for Mr. Lundy, a letter on April 27th, because his lawyer had requested a statement of what is still owed, what's deliverable. So, and in this letter, we also obviously put in, we want the golf ball sign back. But there are a number of items that are still missing, and they are there's a tractor that's missing, another charger, a heavy-duty charger, and then with respect to the chargers that we did get, he gave us light-duty chargers that can't be used for outdoor charging of golf carts, so they're basically useless, but we did get 12 of those, but they're not of the type that we would have expected to use for the golf carts. And a couple of them that he had that were the original chargers just aren't that good a shape. Two, I believe, are waterlogged. So we'd probably have to get a minimum of 14 new chargers that have adequate power to charge the golf carts. They're about $800 a piece. In addition, the carts that we did get back, the Yamaha golf carts, were in very poor condition, and we had anticipated that they were going to reupholster them. That did not happen. So there's a number of items that are still outstanding, and as you know, this is it was a large deal in terms of the overall cost, but there's a number of items that are still outstanding at this present time.
So we sent a letter, and I know there was an email accusing me of releasing it, but I believe that was foiled by the media and was released to the media, actually 7 News, and that was not a privileged letter, even though there were accusations that I was releasing this, quote, unethically. I think the email
Well,
was.
there's 2 letters. The first letter, which the council wanted to be released, sent to Mr. Lundy and his council, was a demand letter for the golf ball sign that facilitated. Now, we did a second letter as a follow-up to what's still outstanding on April 27th, 2023. So as of this present date, we do not have the items that should have been delivered pursuant to the agreements signed between the city and and Mr. Lundy's companies.
So I've seen in social media, it has been sent to me that this, quote, second letter is inflammatory, so some people on the council have that. That's not anything that's privileged, that's, we can get a copy of that, the media can have a copy of that, that's discoverable, or it's not privileged?
I mean, if the letter has been seen by council members, that means that either Mr. Young had to disclose it or Mr. Lundy. It certainly wasn't me. But it's a demand letter to a vendor of the city to give the city back the things that the city should have. It's real basic stuff, as well as items that the city contracted this particular vendor for in connection with the golf course.
So, Mr. Ballard, when we last had our executive session, did we not have, as a group, 5 of us,
Are we going to talk about something that happened in executive session, in open session now?
we talked about the ball?
Yeah, but I'm saying.
The demand letter has already been made public.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not going to have,
Yeah.
I'm not going to have a public discussion about what we talked about as a
No, it's not what
council
we
in
talked
executive
about.
session.
But the fact is, all 5 of us agreed to
Yeah.
not talk about it so that we could make sure that the ball got returned, that we would not talk about the demand letter or make it public. And so,
That's not-
we know, Mayor,
yeah.
that you went and sent
The-
that
the
memo
de-
to
The demand letter.
Donnie Berger,
the
and then
do-
he
the-
posted it all over
Here- here-
social media.
the demand
But
letter-
wait,
Here we go
excuse
with
me,
the-
I'm
Here we
talking.
go with we're devolving. I think that what's clear is that there was a FOIL issued for the demand letter. And the city has an obligation to disclose that which is disclosable under public officers law. So the demand letter that went to Mr. Lundy and his council on behalf of the city was certainly something that's foilable, and it's not privileged.
Right.
The demand letter that went to Mr. Young that certainly would be foilable and not privileged.
However, we were not notified that there was a FOIL request. All of a sudden, it shows up on Donnie Berger's Facebook page.
Well,
And so I emailed you, and then that's when we found out that there was a FOIL request, which the media did not even publish at all. As far as I know, they didn't. So what I'm saying is, we all agreed, let's wait and make sure we can get the ball back first before we release it, and the mayor releases it.
No, the mayor didn't release it.
You
That-
released it
that's
to
not a-
Donnie Berger.
That's
Is
not
that-
a true
You
statement.
did release
It
it.
went to the media first, they foiled it, it was public, I know you want to hide things.
No, did
No,
you,
but you're
did
the
you
one that
not,
wants
did
to
you
hide
not
things
send
here.
I
it?
think that
Excuse me,
we're
hold on.
devolving
Yeah.
again.
All right.
So I-
Again,
it-
this doesn't
yeah.
make sense, and I'm telling you, as your counsel, you have a vendor that you paid $3.4 million to. There's things that are owed, including a golf ball that should have been delivered weeks ago through his counsel, it was not. And now there's other things that I specified to his counsel that have not come. So I'm really not sure about the back and forth, about who did what, but the bottom line is, Mr. Lundy has not complied with his basic obligations, right? We need the golf ball back, and we would need the things that he was supposed to deliver on a timely basis that simply aren't here. I wrote to his counsel, right? He had a demand letter, and the things just haven't transpired. They have not gone smoothly. So notwithstanding the arguments that you all are having, demand letters, it was foiled, and the press has it. I'm not sure who all these other people that you're talking about, they're not relevant for my purposes here, but I would be very uncomfortable talking about what the council members talked to me about in an executive session, and I will not talk about that in open session.
And that's fine, but here's what I think, and I agree with the councilwoman. A tremendous amount of damage has been done by these things being kept in the back room under executive session, the heading of that. And then certain things have been slipped out to the public in ways that were, in my opinion, nefariously done, because I was on the phone with Behringer the other night when you texted him and said it was okay if he told me that you're the one that sent him the email of the letter, because it had already been foiled, and I was talking to him to find out how he got the letter, because we had all agreed.
Transparency.
It wasn't, well, oh.
Yeah.
Right, why do we want to
Yeah,
keep this?
don't give me that
Why do
crap,
we want to
because
keep
you've had
this
more
letter a
stuff on
secret
this
anyway?
council that's
What's
not
the
been
big deal?
transparent. Honestly, Mayor, for you to even use the word in a sentence surprises me. But my point is this, this letter was sent out, now, we all agreed back in the back room, Mr. Bullard, that we would keep it among ourselves for the time being until such time that Lundy received a letter from you about getting the ball back, okay? I believe that's how we had discussed it, and it was going to be a demand letter, and I was under the impression that it was going to be 2 sentences. Can we have our ball back? Because it's been decided the city wants it. Not all of these things that ended up being 3 pages in length, okay, which to me, I thought was very inflammatory. Personally.
I will
looked
say
at
this, I'd like to stop you right there.
Let me, no,
No, I have to
let me
stop you
finish
right there.
because
I-
I'm
I-
talking
I-
right
no,
now.
but I have to
okay?
stop
And
you
you
right
work
there.
for me, not the
Well,
other way
well,
around.
first of all-
Stop.
Stop with that.
All right,
Works
no,
for the
I'm not-
council. It
I'm just
doesn't
saying
work
I
for
this.
you.
guess the
Stop.
first thing is,
Here's
I
what's
Go ahead,
work for the
counsel.
city,
Yes.
first of all,
Yeah,
not an
please.
individual council member, and I certainly don't work for Mr. Lundy or Mr. Samayo,
No.
or whomever your other
Neither do
friends
I,
are, right?
as it's been
Well, I
alluded.
will say this, when I see you advocating
Right.
for a vendor who has not complied with their legal obligations to the city, it makes me wonder.
Okay, stop
Well,
right
no, I'd like
there.
to,
Stop,
it makes
please,
me
stop, finish.
wonder what side you truly are on.
Let me tell you
So I
whose
will,
side
I
I'm
will
on.
tell you this, I sent a demand letter.
Yeah,
And
you
I've,
did.
I've been practicing for 36 years,
I have
right?
no doubt
And I
of that.
sent a very detailed demand letter.
Right.
Under the law, with respect to the city's obligations, with respect to the city's rights, and also that Mr. Lundy violated the agreement that he signed with the city, right? That was laid out clearly. It was sent to him and his counsel. I subsequently had conversations with his counsel about resolving this matter.
Clarify
Right?
on-
And I would like to say that I take a strong objection to you telling me what should be in a demand letter. First of all, sir, right, you were not in agreement with any demand letter whatsoever.
I
right?
said a
That's the
phone
first
call
thing.
would have
And
sufficed.
secondly of all, right,
Yes.
how I do my job is how I've done my job for 36 years, right? Very skillfully and with passion. And I'm telling you, right, that Mr. Lundy has not complied with the basic obligations of the law. Now, you may take his side and you may say, oh, he's hurt, but the bottom line is the city is owed property.
All right.
It's property.
I'd like to
that it
interject at
paid
this point.
$3.4 million for. That's a fact.
That's beside
That
the
is a
point.
fact.
All right, it had nothing personally, all right, this is the thing, Mayor, it's my time.
You're
I'm having
on your
a
last
conversation
chance
with-
here,
No,
so.
don't tell me what chances
telling
I have,
you
how
because
many
you got
times I
time
can
under the
talk.
rules.
You can take your little gavel and put it under the table.
Let me help you out here with the
Okay.
reading, with the
All right,
rules,
here's
because you
the thing.
clearly don't understand them.
No, I do
You
understand
get two
everything
chances to
that's been
speak
done
on
and how
an
you're
issue,
It's all
and you're on your
orchestrated
chance,
to
so
inflame
have
Lundy
at
over
it.
this issue. Now, I want to finish. Mr. Lundy should have got a letter that said two things. We'd like the ball back. There was a misunderstanding between me and Mr. Mix. I read Lundy's response to your first letter. It clearly outlined that there was a misunderstanding. There was a conversation between our city's manager and, of course, a discussion that led to him thinking that he had the right to take the ball. Now, all of a sudden, you two get punked because you didn't know enough to call the manager and tell him, geez, what happened to the golf ball? And that's your fault on you. And talk about due diligence, you don't do any when you come here at night, and I've seen it multiple
right,
times
Councilman,
over the last
your-
year.
your
The
time
fact
is- your
that
time is
letter
expired.
that Lundy
Appreciate it
sent,
there.
I want,
Sir, your-
don't
your-
start with your
your
gavel.
time is- your time is
I knew I should have
expired.
brought my bullhorn
So-
tonight,
So, hey, yeah,
you know?
so here's the
You
thing.
want to cover this up. I
Here-
want it all out for the public to
Okay.
understand.
Sir-
Everything that was
Sir-
done behind the
Hold on.
closed
Sir, the only-
doors,
only thing
what
I will
this
say-
mayor's done, what he's tried to do,
Mr.
and how he
Olney,
inflamed this with
Mr.
Lundy.
Olney, I will
You
say-
could have
Clearly.
settled this very easily.
Mr. Olney, all I'll say, sir,
Please.
is that you do not have a law license, right? You do not have the ability to practice law or
Well-
to give advice, right? And to do so, quite frankly, is considered to be a
I'm
crime,
not- I don't
okay?
need to,
So when
hear
you're telling me what should happen, what the law is, sir, first of all, you don't know, right? You're
Well, I
going
do
beyond
know.
your
I do
range,
know.
right?
I make lots of business discussions. I have
I'm
lots
pretty-
of
I mean,
deals
will
that I
you
do. I'm
please-
trying to explain.
Pretty sure
For
you're,
2 seconds,
We
stop
asked-
knowing everything and be quiet and
But
let
I
the
will
council
say-
speak, please.
First of all, we asked for a phone call
Councilman.
to be made.
Councilman, please, enough.
Do you like your little
Go
gavel?
ahead.
Do you?
but I will say, sir, that
Please.
we made a demand on behalf of the city, and I'm assuming that every council member up there is on the same side, right? You purchased an asset, the vendor needs to comply with his obligations. I communicated with this council clearly, and at this point, we still don't have specific items that we're supposed to get, promises that weren't made, and the simple thing is, the golf ball hasn't even been delivered yet. And I know that a demand letter to Mr. Lundy, you're saying that he should not have gotten a demand letter from a lawyer, but I will tell you this, right?
Yeah.
A person with the level of sophistication who has become a millionaire from this golf course certainly has gotten letters of the type that I've sent, right?
Sure,
And
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he might have a thick skin, but he does have counsel, right? His counsel didn't object to it, and I sent a subsequent letter to his counsel. And all I'm saying is that whatever influence you may have over him, if he could still comply with his obligations, it would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
What
no,
I-
your time is up.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is.
And don't tell me
Council-
that.
your time is up.
You
Do
don't
you have any
run
other-
this thing.
Councilman,
as far as
Can
I'm
I
concerned.
ask
the
a
rules are
question?
the rules. Do you have anything you'd like to?
I'd like to vote.
Okay.
I'd like to make
Go
a
ahead.
couple comments on this. Since we're on the topic of the demand letter, I don't know why it's of such a concern about how tough the demand letter was, because the fact of the matter is, if anybody else went and took that golf ball or went and took city property, they would have been arrested. So I think a letter is pretty soft on someone like that who went and took city property. So that's the first point I'll make. Second point is, on this resolution, where we're gonna be spending over $54,000 to fix the electrical, I will just say it's very unfortunate, because throughout this entire process, we were told by certain council members that they knew all aspects of the deal, the operation was turnkey, all the costs would be covered, and sadly, we were misled. These items, and I'm sure other items that will come up in the future, are things that could have been avoided had we slowed down, like I advocated for a number of times, and completed a formal inspection and had an appraisal. So again, it's unfortunate that the public was misled, and now here we are again, spending nearly $55,000, and I'm sure this is not the end of it.
That's
So,
3 times you used the word misled in
so
your
one thing-
statement there. So I have
Excuse
plenty
me.
to say in new business about
Councilman.
what you just said.
Can you follow the rules? You
I-
said you've read them. Clearly, you don't
No, you
understand them. I'll
first,
help you out.
okay?
Would you like me to read
I'll tell
them?
you what you should do.
Jeez, Councilwoman, go
So,
ahead.
thank you. So, couple questions now because of what's been raised. Mr. Ballard, can you tell us if if you believe the missing golf ball is a criminal matter or a civil matter.
At this juncture, I was trying to work this out with Mr. Lundy's lawyer, so I'm not going to make any type of inflammatory statements or be goaded into any inflammatory statements. I do believe that the letter that went to Mr. Lundy and his counsel and the second demand letter clearly lay out the legal position. I've talked to his lawyer about the legal position, and to a certain extent, he agrees with the legal position as to the golf ball being a fixture. Whether or not it's criminal, I'm not going to speak to that. Certainly, law enforcement could speak to that. The only thing I am aware of is that there was a flag that was taken down, a pride flag, and that person who took down that flag was subsequently arrested. So again, it would depend on the local DA here, but I think the basic element here is that, there's property, it was taken, a demand was made for the return of the property, and it simply hasn't happened. And what's most disturbing is that the property now is being changed or painted, and there was no authorization that I'm aware of in any council meeting or anything that I've been aware of that the person who took the sign could, paint it or do what they want to with it. I think that, first of all, I think it's insulting, but more importantly, they have no right to do that under the law, and I'm talking civil at this point. Certainly, I'm not trying to inflame anything, but I do know there was precedent of someone taking a flag down, and they were subsequently arrested.
Right. Well, it wasn't, I think in that case, it was not city property, it was personal property that somebody loaned the flag to fly. So.
It's even worse then, because
Yeah.
this is city property.
Okay. So, and that's why I wanted to ask that, and
But
before.
again, I'm not giving you determination on whether or
Okay.
not it's criminal or not.
Because I know that's been thrown around, and people are like saying one thing or the other, and I figured if anything.
I don't want to inflame anything in that
Okay,
regard.
that's fine, and before anybody wants to jump out there and speculate, no, I did not, because I got one of your emails. I never authorized that. All I asked was.
Again, Ms.
Are you-
Rosario, how you and I communicate with each other is something that's confidential. We can talk about that
No,
in
I'm not
executive.
talking about what was in the email, but all I'm saying is that I asked if he would return it, and he said yes. I never asked him whether he was going to repaint it or anything like that, because I want to make sure it's clear, I don't give authorization on anything like that, and we all know we can't make those decisions. We should not be making those decisions on a the one.
Individual basis, you're right.
Individual basis, although in some cases that has happened. But I did want to be clear about that. I personally never said that this was turnkey. I did go to all the initial meeting where this was discussed. We had 2 executive session meetings that I guess are considered backdoor meetings. And then we had a meeting where you, Mr. Mix, and I did go up to review the financials. Apparently, we're being accused of being at a secret meeting, and have been, and I don't consider it that. I consider that going to be enlightened. But the question I want to ask is, because, Mr. Mix, I know you've said this before, I think that staff toured the property several times. And in fact, I think what I had in my notes was 3 times that people toured the property.
We went up and looked at the property. The last time I was in there was, it was supposed to have been a pre-closing tour. The closing ended up happening a month later. At that point, I was not allowed to get into the basement, the reasoning being that they didn't have a key. But at that point, it's not for the purposes of inspecting the quality of the work. It's a walkthrough pre-closing, which means you look at it and make sure it's in the same condition that it was when you bought it. So even at that point, if we were into the basement and saw the electrical, as far as we know, it would have been in the same condition as when we bought it. The purpose for an inspection is before you buy something to look at those type of things.
Sure. But the fact is that you did say, I believe Mr. Sly emailed Mike Young and said the inspection was complete. There was nothing mentioned about not having access or anything like that. And I guess my question is if you didn't get access that day, assuming that it was going to close in December, I guess what I don't understand is why wasn't Mr. Lundy contacted and said, hey, we're not closing until we see the basement?
And if I had seen the condition of the electrical, what would I have done at that point? There was al-
Notify us.
There was already a purchase agreement. The simple reason for a pre-closing walkthrough is to make sure it's in the same condition that it was when we purchased it. So at that point, the reason I was given that we couldn't get in there, he couldn't get a key for the basement, was that there was too much stuff in there and we couldn't get through, so.